Lucas was a man of routine. He woke up early, took the same bus, sat in the same chair at the office, and went back home to spend the night watching TV. His life was predictable, with no excitement, no risks, and no dreams fulfilled. He always said that one day he would do something different, but that day never came. One Friday night, after yet another monotonous day, he decided to take a different route home. Something inside him longed for change, even if it was just a new road. As he drove down the dark, almost deserted highway, his headlights illuminated an old, rusty sign on the roadside. Cemetery of the Living, 2 kilometers. The strange name piqued his curiosity. He didn't know of any cemetery nearby. Maybe it was just a peculiar name for a regular burial ground. Moved by a strange feeling, he turned on to the dirt road indicated by the sign. The road was narrow, lined with twisted trees that seemed to whisper in the wind. After a few minutes, he spotted the rusty gates of the cemetery. They were slightly open, as if waiting for his arrival. Lucas parked the car, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. Inside, the atmosphere was even stranger. The tombstones didn't seem old or weathered by time. In fact, they looked new, as if they had been placed recently. As he walked among them, something even more disturbing caught his attention. He recognized the names. First, he saw the name of a co-worker, then the name of the elderly lady who lived in the apartment next door. Each tombstone had not only a name but also a phrase beneath it. Marta Souza lived a life of regrets. Eduardo Melo waited for the right moment, but it never came. Fernanda Lima dreamed, but never had the courage to act. Lucas's heart began to race. He knew these people. They were alive. How could they have gravestones here? Then something made his blood run cold. At the end of a row of graves, there was a tombstone with his own name on it. Lucas Almeida lived without truly living. A shiver ran down his spine. His eyes locked onto the inscription. The meaning hit him like a stone. He was alive, but he wasn't really living. Suddenly, a noise behind him made his whole body stiffen. Turning slowly, he saw an old gravedigger watching him. The man wore a tattered hat and rested a shovel on his shoulder. His eyes, though tired, held a mysterious glint. "This cemetery is not for the dead," said the old man in a raspy voice. "It is for those who are still alive but have chosen not to live." Lucas felt a lump in his throat. How is this possible?" he asked, his voice trembling. The gravedigger sighed. "Every tombstone here belongs to someone who spends their days merely existing, without truly enjoying life. People who let fear, excuses, and routine suffocate their dreams. Time passes, and when they realize it, it's too late." Lucas looked at his tombstone again. It was as if it was giving him a warning, a second chance. The gravedigger smiled slightly. "You still have time to change that, but the question is, will you continue as a living dead, or will you start truly living?" The wind blew strongly, making the trees moan around him. Lucas looked up at the dark sky, then at the gravedigger, and finally at his own tombstone once more. Without saying a word, he turned and walked away from the cemetery, his steps firm. That night, instead of following his usual routine, he did something different. He called an old friend he hadn't spoken to in years. He grabbed a notebook and started writing the story he had always wanted to tell. He bought a ticket to a place he had always dreamed of visiting. The tombstone remained there, in the cemetery of the living. But something had changed. He had finally decided to live. Moral of the story: time waits for no one. Are you living or merely existing?